Hey, good morning, guys. Give me a minute. Give me just a second to get everything together here. Oh, I started drinking green tea. It's actually pretty good. All right, all right. Excuse me. Okay. Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. I pray everything. I pray everything is well with everybody who is watching, will watch whenever you watch. I am Keith K.L. Belvin, crisis specialist, professional counselor, author, and educational consultant. And I am a professional problem solver, meaning that I am called in or people come to me when they are struggling with something in their personal lives that they're trying to figure out. And I am the person that people call on to look to help find the solutions. I work mostly with women between the ages of 35 and 70, but I am available to work with men, children, couples, but I do have a target audience, but I am here for whoever needs help. And this is what I do. And every Friday at 10:30 now, I go live because I have cut my social media footprint by cutting down the time that I spend on social media to work on me, to work on business and everything else. I've been going to the park, getting in some walking. I'm probably going to take my behind swimming. It's just getting up at 5 a.m. I'm not going to lie, it is tough, but I'm going to actually start doing that. But before I go any further, I want to say rest in peace to a gentleman from where I grew up, Johnny Stewart, from Penns Grove, New Jersey. Johnny and I grew up when I lived in Penns Grove, and he had recently come to join us in the Unapologetically Keith Facebook group. And he had just posted the day before he passed, and we were the same age. And let me just say this to anybody watching, right? Death is an eye-opener because it automatically causes you to consider your own mortality. When somebody you know who's the same age passes, and of course, I don't know what he passed of, I don't know what his situation was. But when somebody your age passes, you automatically start to think of your own mortality. And it has been, I try not to get fixated on death because it's very easy to get yourself caught into a spiral when you start to worry so much about your own demise that you become paralyzed to living. And I resist that. All of a sudden, you will amp up everything that's wrong with you to the point that you are becoming a hypochondriac. And I don't allow myself to get to that point. But I have to admit, when somebody that I know passes, it just does not sit well with me. And I will meditate on that and then let that go. Second shout out. Shout out to Sister Ivy Couch, a new client that reached out that wanted to set up professional help. She's suffering with HIV. And I have to give her credit for putting it out for public consumption about her medical situation. She's trying to help others through the way she lives her life. Well, she came and had a session with me, and she gave me a wonderful review. You can go on TikTok and see it, or you can go on my Facebook page. But shout out to her, because anytime somebody says a kind word, you want to be able to give them respect and just, hey, Brother James, what's going on, sir? And the fact that she's dealing with this deadly virus, and her concern was not being here for her children. And that is something that we're working on. And that is another reason why I can't get so consumed when there's actually nothing wrong with me other than just being a big guy. When somebody is actually dealing with something that creates a problem for her physically. And so shout out to her. She gave me a wonderful review. Hey, darling. Good morning. Good morning. And so when somebody is allowing the world to see the struggles that they have with HIV, it causes me not to worry as much, because when I see what she's dealing with, and I'm actually honored that she chose me to come to have a conversation. So that's part of what I do. And I actually invite people to come and bring me their problems because I'm built for it. But again, I am honored by any positive review, and even some of the negative reviews. I don't bug out by them. Now, today, just catching up on the week. Week has been pretty good, but the world seems to be toppling itself between the forced evictions due to the inflation, Roe versus Wade, and of course this damn McDonald's video. Well, I'm not going to deal with the evictions, and I'm not going to deal with Roe versus Wade, because I don't deal with politics in that capacity online. Because so unfortunately, we have spiraled down to nobody wants to have a, what's up, JJ? No one wants to have a conversation in the middle. It's I'm on one side, you're on the other side, and if you don't see it the way I see it, it spirals into an argument. So I leave the political stuff alone. I don't trust either side. I just want to see people taken care of, and right now that's not happening in the country. And then this McDonald's video, which sparked a national debate on every social media platform, national radio, print media, about a father bringing only his child, something to eat, while not bringing the other children in the home food. And all of a sudden, every moralistic value in the world was addressed. Every person weighed in, and I understand it. But one of the things that I say, and we're going to talk about it tonight in my Facebook group. We'll talk about it tonight because it's something that's on people's minds. So let's let them come to the table and let's talk about it. But I think for me, and something that I say all the time, I feel you are strongly obligated to bring food for anyone else but your child. I feel you are not obligated to bring food to anyone but your child. But being me, I would have brought them food, but there's no obligation there. Great point. And that's actually how I feel. I'm going to get into that. Appreciate that, James, because that is one sentiment I see. Another one is you don't just bring one child, you bring all the children. Got that. Somebody says if you're still connected to that mother, you got to be connected to those kids. All those is fantastic points if that's what you believe, because it's one of those arguments where nobody's wrong, because it's all about personal belief. But we have come to this point in the country that we fight over personal belief instead of just simply saying, okay, which is what I do often, because why would I go back and forth with somebody and they not get it? But my thing is, I look at the mental and the emotional part of things, because often we tend to miss that. And what I mean by that is, often in our arguments, we don't stop and consider what we know and what we don't know. One, turns out the video is fake. Turns out that the young lady creates skits. She created this one, went viral. God bless her. Hope she turns it into some money for herself. But what I look at is how fast the video became the topic of conversation, how emotional people got over that, which lets you know that it touched a lot of nerves for those who come from families with multiple children, come from families with multiple fathers, come from situations with multiple mothers. And for brothers and sisters of color and those that are connected to the community, it touches on all of us because we were surrounded or connected to those environments if we didn't actually live them ourselves. So often I will use myself as transparency, because this way you can't argue with my own experiences. You can say you don't like them, but I'm not going to argue about my history. So I will give it to you. I came up in a home where we had multiple fathers. My sister's father is not my father, even though I have his last name. And my youngest sister, her father is not my father, because there was a 14-year difference, and it is what it is. So I have experienced the father only doing for his child's situation. Does it bother the child? Yes, of course it does. Was he obligated? No, he was not. I thought he was because we shared the last name. Let me add that with I still with the woman, then yes, I am obligated. Okay, I agree. They were having a big conversation at work these days. Of course, it's a big conversation all over the planet, Jamie, and you guys can see the comments in the what's name. So I understand what that is. And my mom and my mother and my sister's father were not together. He left when she was young, I think a year, and I was 2. So I never really knew him. I just knew the phone calls would come, promises would come, and nothing was ever delivered. Okay. And after a certain point, I just kind of shut him off and wasn't listening to because everything he talked about was BS. Now, fast forward, I became a father, multiple children, multiple women. And Tiff stepped in and dealt with my children. So personally, if I have a decent relationship with the mother, and this is the thing that I will talk before I get into that, I want to talk about variables, right? And this is what we have to pay attention to, because people don't discuss variables. But let me just explain. A variable is a characteristic, number, or quantity that can be measured or counted. A variable may also be data, age, sex, business income, and expenses. Now you go, Keith, what does this have to do with the relationship? Easy. We don't know the variables. Everybody that brings their story to the table, their feelings to the table, their opinions to the table, you have to explain the variables. Was he sleeping with her? Were they in a relationship? Was the situation toxic? From the video, it looked that way. Does the sibling that he's bringing the food to have a relationship with his sisters and brothers that's positive? Because if not, then buying them food and they're roughing off his son may be a problem. See, these are the variables that if we do not know, it's very hard to speak as if we know exactly what was going on in that situation. So often, many of us are only speaking from our own position, our own feelings, and then projecting that outwards and demanding that other people respond and respect what we think and feel. And I get it. That is what drives social media. That is what creates these long debates. But the problem is, what we don't talk about is we don't talk about outcomes. And then we don't talk about how to change those outcomes. And we don't talk about how do we deal with those outcomes when they happen. So for me, if I'm going to bring food to the house, if I'm going to bring food to my child in someone else's house, and I know there's other children there, I'm going to feed the other children. Now, not all the time. So mothers, let me just say this to all the mothers who are like, you feed, no. If you can, it would be a nice gesture. No man or woman is obligated to somebody else's children. It is a choice. And it is a choice based on, what did I just say? Variables. Does he or she have money enough for the other children? I didn't see that talked about. Well, I just mentioned that, JJ. If you're having sex with it, that's a variable. That changes the game. If you're coming over getting some, the least you could do is take care of the children. It's the least you could do. If you're coming and sneaking some or getting some, hopefully you're not humping in front of the kids, then you should get the kids. But here's the thing. Those are all variables that y'all are mentioning. Those are all variables. And those variables change the way the scenario plays. So for me, here's what I look at. I look at the potential damage done to the children if you send a child in there. And the crazy part is, and this is what bothers me, I'm now starting to see all the jokes and memes and little skits being created of what it looks like when the father's just playing with one child while the others and the mother watch them eat. Let me tell you why that's dangerous. When we start making light of the outcomes of negative situations, when we start making light and having fun at the expenses of others who are in toxic situations. We create situations that harm the children. And I put up children and disappointments because I want you to understand what that looks like. Children respond to disappointments in different ways. There's no perfect response to these negative emotions. And as a counselor, when I have children, and as a former educator for 20 plus years, when I had children sitting in my office who did something, I never actually reacted to the something because I wanted to know what was driving it. And then you sit down and peel back that onion and you feel that this kid is mad or angry because of disappointments, frustration, or whatever done to him at the hands of adults. So I got a problem with the father wanting to send his child back in there with only food for him. Pick your child up, take your child for a ride, go get your child something to eat, bring it back. Now, I have heard women say, but he tried that and the mother didn't allow him. Well, that's another variable, and that's a problem. Because I know mothers like that who, if they can't have their way, the child pays the price. I lived it. There's an article on my wall right back here from Ebony Magazine where it actually talks about how Keith and Tiffany overcame baby mama drama. We even have a title for it. Baby daddy drama and baby mama drama. And so once you label something, you have given it life, and it's real. I have watched in my own life mothers of my children hurt my children because they were mad at me. And that hurt lasted much longer than the incident itself. And no care was offered. And to some of my brothers, you are the problem with some of your children because of what you're doing to their mothers. And these are all, and I'm going to go back to it again. The magic word for today, boys and girls, variables. If you do not understand the variables that you put into place or that are in place, you're not going to understand the outcome. And it is these outcomes that are creating the problem. It is the outcomes of situations like we saw in the video that sparked this video to go viral. No one talked about how do we repair the fact that a mother's on social services? How do we fix that? How do we repair that the mother should connect with the other fathers? And no one talked about maybe the mother is running the same game on the other fathers. We don't know. We don't know all the variables. We don't know if she's a good mother or a bad mother. All we know is what we saw in a less than 3-minute video. I think less than 2 minutes. Which at the time I said it, I said, I think this is staged. And I'm going to tell you why. Because anytime somebody has a camera up right at the exact moment and everything plays out too well, I think it's staged. And I've watched enough reality TV, and I've asked that question with reality TV all the time. So you just happen to have a camera in the bathroom when this person broke down? Right. Doesn't make sense. But what it touches on is how hurt we are as people. How messed up our relationships are as people. How bad we are as parents. How insensitive we are to children. Our own. I have made some very bad mistakes in my life because I did not know how to be a good father. I had no role model in that area. So I did not become what I couldn't. Well, let me put this back. I could not become what I had never saw. I didn't see good male role models. What fed me was the negative role models that was in the areas and environments that I came up with. So I became one of those horrible fathers. I was. I talk about it. I embrace it because I'm no longer that. But the damage that I created, the damage connected to my children was a problem. And so my two oldest have issues with me. And I can't do anything but pray for them. Because their issues with me came from their disappointment in me. Well, one didn't even know me. So is that my fault that his mother never actually said, good morning, Shreese? Is it my fault if the mother never told him I was his father until he was 26? And his life experiences for 26 years were firmly in place. So upon meeting me, it was very difficult to allow his connection to me to drive past, and I'm going to circle right here, the disappointments. And it says children respond to disappointments in different ways, and there's no perfect responses to these negative emotions. And here's the crazy part. His mother has still never come to me and apologized for not letting me know my child was on this planet for 26 years or letting him know. So when trying to build a relationship with a stranger, he couldn't allow himself to open up to me. And then when I gave constructive criticism to things I saw him doing on social media that I thought was detrimental to him as a father, as a counselor, and as an educator, he took it the wrong way. So we don't talk. I can't do anything. I've apologized. We've had conversations, but I can't make him love me, so I don't try. But I'm always here prepared if he wants to have a conversation. Sometimes you have to allow your children and people that you love to go, give them to God, let God work with them. And if they come back, go from there. And if they never come back, then ask God to cover them in whatever direction they go in. My daughter, number 2, we had a very difficult coming up because I didn't know I didn't know she was my daughter until after 5 months. Yeah, 5 months. And then the process of trying to put things together was difficult because her mother, rest in peace, her mother wasn't comfortable. Good morning, Dana. Her mother wasn't comfortable with me being the father because she had told everybody it was somebody else, because in acknowledging that I was the father, she then had to acknowledge what her behavior was. She didn't want people to know that. And these are the variables that I'm talking about that go into what create. Let me bring that back. These are the variables. And again, I gave a definition to the variables. So again, good morning, Dana. Good morning, Sharice, JJ, and James. Appreciate you guys being here. And anybody else that is watching, I appreciate you. I know Sherry was here a little bit ago. So in understanding the variables that go into the different relationships, this is what you deal with. So unfortunately, my daughter and I did not have a good connecting because her mother never actually wanted to deal with me in a fatherly sense, but she did deal with me in a sexual sense. And it goes back to JJ's point of, well, if you're knocking down, well, we're not going to use that term. When you're having sex with the mother, what do you do with the children? And in trying to do for my daughter, I was being blocked because of her mom. So I sent her down south with her grandparents, hoping that by sending her down south, it would give her a better opportunity. Here's a variable I did not count on. And please understand why I brought up the term variables, guys. These are the things that many of you can see and some you can't. So when I sent her down south, because I was in a relationship, I was married, I thought, and I wasn't married yet, I was dating. Excuse me, I didn't get married yet. I thought that by sending her with her grandparents, it was going to give her a great opportunity to get out of New York, live down south. She was good. Here's the variable I couldn't count on, guys. Her grandfather and her became so connected that she didn't want to listen to anybody else. And when she came home, she came back when she was around 10. Her mother stepped in as a girlfriend instead of a mom. Now, you'll have a conversation and she'll get very upset with me talking about her moms, but it's okay. I got to speak it from my point of view. Because when her mother reached out to me at 16 and said, I need help, it was there to do that. Let me see. I'm not discounting the variables, but the variables never change the facts. Most variables give people more choices, but those choices are still voluntary to oppose. The variables don't change the facts. The variables are part of the facts, though, Sherry, because each situation is different and each situation has a set of variables that change the facts themselves. So there's no blanket facts. Each facts is what it is. The relationships are what they are. But when we're not privy to all of the aspects of a relationship, then there's no way to actually be able to give the best situation. I say I'm a counselor, so when I sit and talk with somebody, I have to be able to do assessments based on what they give me. But I have materials and I have techniques to get someone to give me, whether it's a physical assessment or visual assessment or an actual personality assessment. All of those things allow me to see what they may not want me to see. And then we can be able to sit down and put things together, because the question becomes, what is actually fact and what is actually something that's made up? Now, the fact of what we saw in the video, this man brought food. She started the video by saying he comes every day and only brings his child food. He's not doing that today. He came and said, here's the food. No, you can't have it. He asked, well, then can my kid come to the car? She said, no. That's what we know. What we don't know is what's their situation. What's their romantic situation? What's their financial situation? We knew about the food stamps. She mentioned that. She said he knew I didn't have any food stamps. We don't know why she doesn't have food stamps. We don't know how many other fathers are there. Is it one other father that is father to 3 kids, or each kid have a different father? All of these things that we don't know actually change certain situations that happen. And it still comes down to the man is not obligated to take care of somebody else's kid. That's the one fact that does not change. Is there a moral obligation? Depends on what your moral standing is. But is there a legal obligation? Not at all. And these are the conversations that we have to have. And this is what the beautiful part is. And we'll have this conversation tonight when we get into the group, because these are the things that we have to look at. For me, I look at the disappointment that is created simply because, and the definition of disappointment is sadness or displeasure caused by the non-fulfillment of one's hopes and expectations. And this is what we have to be very careful of when we have relationships with other people. We have to be careful that our actions, we can agree the variables may change the situation, creating more choices, but the fact is this man only is responsible for the children. Technically, that's not going to change. I just said that. Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you wholeheartedly. There's nothing to disagree on. I agree with you wholeheartedly. And I say it all the time. I don't have to take care of somebody else's child. I would feed the children, but I said, and I have posted, I think, a few times, that I've said, I have no problem if a man goes, I'm only taking care of my child. Okay. I'm not mad at that, because that's all he's responsible for. So yeah, we're in agreement. I don't disagree with you. That's why I said there's no right or wrong, because it all's based on how you feel. I have watched people get into the last couple of days drawn out, knocked down arguments about what a man or woman should do with their children. But yet on a regular basis on social media, I see people say, you're not going to tell me what to do. How's that work? So we can tell everybody what to do, but we can't be told what to do. Okay. So as a father who has been in these situations, you simply do what you think is right and deal with the repercussions. But understand that disappointment is real. And when you have disappointment, which is an initial emotion, the secondary emotion that comes is this one. It's one of the secondary emotions. Anger is a secondary emotion because anger is triggered by something else. If you're hurt, if you're disappointed, if you're sad, if you're frustrated, if you're in pain, anger ensues. Secondary emotion. That then becomes the major emotion. So most people, you have to kind of deal with that. But what people don't realize, if you can deal with the initial emotion, the anger disappears. Case in point, let's talk about the disappointment. If the disappointment causes a child to become angry and they come to school angry, if I can fulfill what the child was disappointed about, anger disappears. It's almost as if the anger never existed. But often we're stuck dealing with the anger, the secondary emotion, and we apply all this energy, and then we create other things, other feelings connected to the secondary emotion. Instead of saying, how can I solve this? Now we'll ask, what are you angry about? Now, depending on the degree of anger, you do have to make sure the person is safe to themselves or to others. So yes, the anger does have to be dealt with if it is now turned into aggression and physical or any other type of aggression. You might have to deal with that, especially because safety is always paramount. But to cause anger to dissipate, You have to connect to what was the initial thing. And this video exposes a lot because it touches on how many of us were raised. It touches on how many of us had interactions with our parents. It touches on many of us that had negative interactions with our fathers or whatever. And this opened up a lot of wounds, a lot. You can tell by the conversations. You can tell by the ferocity in the conversations. Well, my thing is, how do we fix it? I want to spend as much energy on the repair. I don't care about how it happened. How do we fix it so it don't happen again? I don't see those conversations happening enough. They're happening in some circles. I see them. Just don't see them enough. And like many things, we spend a ton of time on the problem, not the solution. So you guys in the chat, Sherry, Dana, Sharice, JJ, James, and I think I'm missing somebody. I'm not sure if I am. Let me see if I'm missing somebody here. So we got James, JJ, Dana. Y'all tell me, what's the solutions that you think? Share it with me in the chat. Give me one solution that you think to help fix situations like this. What are your thoughts? Because we all have thoughts about the situations themselves, but how do we fix it? Pick part of it, because I don't know if we can cover it all. You can pick the children, pick the mom, pick the dad, pick the union, whatever you want. Offer me a solution. Let's talk solutions, because I think we don't do that enough. And I know tonight when we get on the Zoom call, and again, I have a group on Facebook, Unapologetically Keith. I think if you do a search, you can find it. But if you're interested, just send me a message on Facebook. I'll send you an invite. We have adult conversations, but everything is always respectful. Just an opportunity for folks to come in and just, have a laugh or have a conversation or whatever. We used to do the Zoom calls every week, but I found that participation was not high, and I was not going to spend 2 or 3 hours every Friday if folks were not going to show up. I got other work that I could be doing, and we will see tonight. And if a lot of people don't show up tonight, we may not be back on Zoom for some time in the future. Sometimes you got to let things go to make things happen. Is it strictly on Facebook? Yes. It is on Zoom. No, it'll be shown on Facebook, but it's a Zoom group. But the login, the Zoom information is in the Facebook group. So if you're interested, just send me a text message. I'll send you a link to the Zoom group. You're more than welcome to come in and join us. It's a respectful place. I am digging this green tea. I bought a ton of it. You don't truly understand what I mean by what question, sir? What's the solution? How do we fix the negatives that we've seen in the video? That's my question. Just one. How do we fix some of the negatives that we've seen in the video? How do we fix what we saw? What we saw in the video went viral. It touched millions of people. How do we fix the situation? Yeah, the solution. What's the fix? I have my own points. I'll offer them in a minute. I just want to see what you guys in the chat think. It's actually really good. I've always enjoyed green tea. I think I had it at the Asian restaurant in Coney Island years ago. And I don't drink tea often. I don't like coffee. I'm not really a fan of tea, but I do enjoy green tea. Well, while you guys are thinking about it, I think one of the things that we have to do is we have to start repairing how folks are dating before children are actually conceived. We face our pain. I agree. That's a great way, because the real question is, if you're in pain, do you need to be in a relationship and do you need to create children? But if you've created children, then that's a good look. Deal with you first before to figure it out. Because and again, using myself, I've had these conversations with my children to try to help ease some of the pain, my other children, to ease some of their pain because of relationships with their mothers. And I don't talk bad about the mothers. Nope. That is something I committed to years ago, that I would not speak negative. I would speak truth. And sometimes in speaking truth, folks would get very upset. The mothers would get upset. Why are you telling? Because it's my truth. I understand that you don't like my truth, but I'm not lying about you. Now, just because you don't want me to talk about it, I get it, but I have the right to do so. Hence, that's why I wrote a book called From Gigolo to Jesus. I wanted to put my truth down on paper. So if I'm no longer here, which will come for all of us, somebody can look back at my book and at least have for that moment in time how I felt about me. Because people are going to say what they want to say, and people are going to create what they want to create. And I don't really worry about it. I honestly don't care what people think about me because I can't control it. I used to joke about it in school. Somebody got to be the bad guy. Not just put a bandage on it. Yeah, that's true. But do people understand that, JJ? That's the question. Somebody might think the bandage is a tourniquet until they're taught differently. But I respect that. We can't just put a bandage on it. It's not going to make it better. And these are the conversations that we have to have, and have to have them as in depth and with the same ferocity that we have with the judgment and the breakdown of people that we don't know. I have watched people make the mother out to be, Lord, and the father out to be whatever, how bad the kids are, whatever. I was like, yo, how do y'all know all this? And when it turned out to be fake, that made it even more funnier for me, is because now you judged a fictitious situation and gave a fictitious situation real life implications and feelings and thoughts. And y'all knew the father and y'all knew the mother and all this, when in actuality, you were speaking from your own experiences. We'll say that. I don't know about them, but in my life, okay. Now, some people do say that. Not everybody, though. But we got to have the same conversations to the fix. We always have to look at ourselves, JJ. Always. I agree. It starts with us, because that's the only thing that you can control. I can't control anybody. In my counseling sessions, I tell folks all the time, I cannot carry the rock up the mountain for you, but I can travel with you and help you. Maybe even hold it up a little bit, but in the end, you have to carry the weight. The guarantee that I make, and I don't make many guarantees, is that the longer you push that rock up the mountain, the smaller it gets. Your problems, the more you work on it, and the more you bring information, ideas, and assistance to the table, the lesser your problems will become when you embrace them. So, JJ, when you say look at yourself, of course, that was the beauty of working with a young lady who has HIV. And she said, Keith, I do not believe I'm going to be alive for my daughter's graduation. And I can share that with you because she shared that in public. And I was like, we're not owning that. Only God has that information. So what we're going to do is change the plan of action. And we're going to change your day to day. And we're going to change your focus each day you wake up. And you're going to fight for each day and let God be the decision maker that he is. Magic Johnson in 1991 found out that he had HIV. 31 years later, he is one of the most successful African-American businessmen on the planet, and in actuality is one of the most successful businessmen, period, on the planet. Owner of the Los Angeles Lakers, owner of the Los Angeles Dodgers. Outstanding, I think 438 businesses or whatever in 31 years. So he did not accept his death sentence. He did not allow it to kill him. God said, no, I got plans for you. And he's made HIV part of his stance, where now we don't even think about the HIV when we look at Magic. Some of us do. And what Magic has been very good at is we don't get to see him on the bad days. And what I mean by bad days, do the research of anybody suffering from HIV. There are some very bad days. There are some very bad days. And there are some changes that happen to your body that you cannot control. And the best you can do is try to slow it down, use the medication, do the things you're supposed to do. But what's crazy is that if you start to worry, it actually amplifies your increase of the HIV virus until you get to a certain point when you don't have a certain amount of T cells. And I'm not going to get into the medical part, that's when you're considered to have AIDS. AIDS is a syndrome. It means that you have reached a point where your immune system can no longer do certain things. So that's very important. But again, Only God has the final solutions, the days, the time. No one knows the expiration date, no matter what you're dealing with. So all of us have to go back to what JJ said. We have to look at ourselves. And we have to be firm on who we are, what we believe in, what we will accept and what we won't accept. That's why I have no problem with someone not liking me. I have no problem with somebody not agreeing with me. I don't fight somebody to agree with me. I don't fight somebody to like me, because then I become a slave to their emotions. Why would I do that? And I used to say that to kids. So what, they don't like you? And the kid used to say, but Mr. Belvin, when you was in school, did everybody like you? No, not at all. Some people outright hated me because I was cool with some and an a-hole to others. And I stayed in trouble. And when I became an adult, I would go into certain circles. Some people loved me. Some people hated me. And they all hung out. My whole thing was, you can feel any way that you want. Don't put your hands on me. Once you touch me, now you invited me to the party. Now it ain't about how you feel. It's about what you're going to deal with. Yeah, I was a bully too. Because I was a damaged child. I was a child who had anger issues. And not just anger issues. I was a child that didn't understand that my anger, secondary emotion, came from this. Disappointment. Parents, please understand this. If you disappoint your child, it's going to turn into something. Disappointment is sadness or displeasure caused by non-fulfillment of one's hopes and expectations. Do you think any child hopes to be in a situation where they're torn between both parents? Do you think any child wants to be in a situation where they watch their brother or sister eat and they don't eat? Do you think any child wants to live in less than what they see on television and everything else? They don't have a choice. So they deal. And many of us don't know what the outcomes are going to be until we have to deal with them. There are some children that come from less than situations who to this day didn't even know they were poor. And actually, as when they get adults and you see some of the interviews, they go, nah, my mother and dad did a great job, or my mother did a great job. My dad did a great job. We didn't even realize. I didn't realize until boom. Where I lived at in Queens, when I used to have some young ladies come over to the co-op that I lived in, I had some women ask me, how come my air conditioner wasn't in the window? And I said, what do you mean? She said, you have these air conditioners like this throughout the apartment. I said, yes. She said, how come they're not in the window? I said, we have central air. And she's like, what's that? And I wasn't being disrespectful. I said, no, we have AC. It's automatic. And she was marveled by that. I've had some women come into the apartment and marveled at the fact that the refrigerator was full of food. I actually went into the refrigerator and was like, wow, y'all got a lot of food. Get out of my refrigerator. That's not what we're here to do. We ain't here to talk about food. There's no disrespect to the sisters. That's what it was. And then I've been in people's houses where I've been that person like, yo, this you? Yes, it happens. And if your parents do certain things right and they can limit the disappointment, you're in a good place. Not every parent can do that. Some parents are still dealing with the remnants of their own disappointment. Hence, that's why they got to come to me as a counselor. And I'm here for it. I am here for it. And part of the reasons why, you guys know I'm a man of God. This is why. This is why I want to talk solutions and why I try to figure out how can we work on the fix, not the problem itself. Because I believe we all have to carry each other's burden. And in this way, we fulfill the law of Christ. That is Galatians 6:2. That is the reason why if I'm coming to somebody's house and there's more children there, I'm going to feed all the children if I can. If I can't, then I'm going to be honest. I'm a problem solver anyway, always have been. In my opinion, compassion is needed and adulting is required. The father is correct for providing food for his children. The mother should have communicated the need and asked for help if there was a real need for food. As a mother, she is required the food for her kids in any means necessary. It takes a village of empathy, sympathy, compassion should be present when children are concerned. Without question, Dana, you know I believe that. And I know you do. And I know you have become not just the village builder, the food gatherer. I know you and your husband have done some yeoman things in your situations, but that's very true. But you just, at the beginning right there, Dana, compassion. Not everybody has it or knows what it is. And that's what's missing. And the understanding of a village, that's an opinion. Even though it's an opinion I agree with, unfortunately, there are some people that are solo-minded. Actually, when we look at it, African-centric and European-centric is more of the kings and everything flows through the king, and African-centric it's more of the village and stuff like that. And so we, as folks who have taken on certain European dispositions, have gotten away from us working as groups. There were no borders, meaning physical borders. There were no walls in Africa, and folks did business. But in Europe, there was walls and there was kingdoms, and those kingdoms were fought for and killed over, and there you go. This morning, I sent out some inspirational texts, and my dad texted me back saying, that's between you and God. Pray on it and take it to him. I got really upset and felt like a little boy again. I feel you, JJ. Well, that was your dad's position. That is what your dad thought. Is he right? Is he wrong? Don't know. But if it made you feel negative, then that's one of the things that you have to work on. It goes back to what you just said, dealing with yourself. So if it took you back to feeling like a little boy, then we need to go back and see why. Start to repair that. So when he offers his opinion, it doesn't affect you in a negative way. That's the work that we have to do. That's the acknowledgement. That's part of the reason why we come to counseling, is because in coming to counseling and having those conversations, those are discussions that we need to have. And in having those discussions, it allows us to sit back and be able to go, how do I deal with the feelings of? How do I deal with when this happens to me? How do I deal with what happened to me? When things are solution-based, then we look to find answers instead of just waving at the problem. We spent the last 3 or 4 days waving at a fictitious problem without actually really digging into why do we feel the way that we feel. Oh. So guys, with all of that said, I want to say this to anybody who's watching now or later or whenever you watch this. We all have a path that we have taken to become who we are. That path is laced with a lot of different things that have made us feel good and made us feel bad. Some of us are dealing with the remnants of things that happened in our childhood, and it has affected how we do things as an adult. And some of us are in the midst of some negative things right now as we are adults. Either way, what we have to do and what we have to become are open enough to have a conversation, open enough to get help, open enough to be able to go, how can I fix what's wrong with me? Or how can I go help somebody fix what's wrong with them? Because the village that Dana talks about is not just in our own homes. It's about extending that to others. So the help is readily available. I make this pitch to anybody, and I'm going to put this up right here. If you need to speak to me, you can set up a free and private call to have a conversation. And no, you heard me share some things about my client because it's free. But it's not, not free. She's already put those things out publicly. I don't share anything that I talk about in sessions. Most things that lead to our feelings formed out of a habit. All depends, Brother Charles. Because our reaction to things that was done, and I'll give you an example right here. When you look at disappointment, Brother Charles, it is sadness or displeasure caused by non-fulfillment of one's hopes and expectations. Those are not habits. Those are reactions to things that were or were not done. Now, they can create negative habits, which often they do. Many of us will create bad habits to deal with disappointments. Some of us as adults will become hypersexual, drink, smoke, become aggressive, become reserved, become recluse, So the habits that we form based on the whatever the variables are, as I mentioned earlier, that's what it is. And then our feelings are going to be connected to those. But there's always an initial thing that put things into motion. So if our mothers or fathers or whoever, if our loved ones didn't treat us a certain way, if we were in a bad relationship, if whatever happened, whatever triggered us into a negative situation, when that happened, then we can develop a lot of negative habits, bad habits that then foster even more situations. So, but guys, like I said, I am here. If you are a person, when you're watching this, if you're a person that needs to talk to somebody, reach out. I am here for it. Let me just find it here. There we go. In all of my profiles, whether it's LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, whatever, in all my profiles, there's a LinkedIn link that has all of my links. And you'll be able to find me if you need me. If you want to see my other videos, all my videos are on YouTube. You can watch them. I think it's like 300 or 400 videos, whatever it is. But I'm here to help solve the problem. I'm here to help figure out what's wrong and to guide you to a way to create techniques. And Brother Charles just said it, and I definitely, is to form the positive habits that's going to keep you in the state of mind and being that you need to be in. Because some habits, once they're in place, are very difficult to change. But this is what professional counseling does. This is what you do when you turn to someone to help you, is to help you identify. So assessment has to be done, then to help you build on, and then to actually apply what we built on. But we can't do any of that if we don't get together to talk. And I can't do any of that until you make a decision that you need assistance. So as Brother Jamie said, it starts with ourselves. It starts with everyone. So Brother Charles, Brother Jamie, Sister Dana, Sister Sherry, Sister Sharice, Brother James, and anybody else that's watching, it comes down to me acknowledging myself of what I need. And one of the ways that I do that also, one of my extended ways I'll show you, is that this is one of the things I build with churches. I get churches to understand that they have to play a major role in the mental health of its parishioners. So I actually get churches to pay a portion of the mental health fees so people can get the care that they need, because that's one of the things, especially in these very difficult times when money is tight, folks want help, but they can't afford it, and insurances are not paying, and some people cannot afford insurance. So I get the church to pick up the tab. Person pays what they can, and the church pays the rest. And before you say it's not working, it is. I have at least 3 churches right now that are paying for the mental health services of their parishioners. And I would love to talk to your church if you want me to. I will gladly speak to any church member, any pastor, and we can have this conversation, because as I have shown you before, and here it is right here, we have to, and this is one of the things that I stand on, is Galatians 6:2. Carry each other's burden, and that way you will fulfill the laws of Christ. If the church has the means to be able to help those who are hurting emotionally, I believe the church has a responsibility to help those people out. The church feeds you physically. The church feeds you spiritually. The church doesn't go out its way to feed you emotionally or mentally, because often they don't know how. That's where I come in. I'm a real Christian counselor, a real Ephesians 4 teacher who provides a service. And the church helps me provide that service to his parishioners. The same as if I was the person coming to do repairs or clean the floors, or if I was the person coming to fix the AC, except I'm coming to help the parishioners figure out what's wrong. And that makes them stronger parishioners, because once they figure out what's wrong and they start working on what's right, they're going to spend more time in their church as a way to be like, yo, my church takes care of me. My church helped me get the professional help that I need. So why wouldn't they tell other people to come to their church? So it's a win-win-win for the church, for the person, and for me as the professional who's providing the service. And so this is what it is. And it's a form of ministry. And if you're not a person that is that's faith-based, then understand you still got to start with you, as Brother Jamie said, because you still got to acknowledge what's wrong with you and how do you get the help. I'm here for that too. I work with secular folks. I don't have to break my Bible out to help you figure out what's wrong. I don't have to break my Bible out to help you realize that you shouldn't be with that dude. You shouldn't be with that chick. You need to do something with your children, or you need to do something with yourself. I don't need my Bible for that. I personally would use it, but if that doesn't apply to you, okay, we'll figure out another way. So there's always ways, whatever it is, whether you're Muslim, a Sikh, a Jewish person, whatever. There is always ways to fix what's wrong if you're willing to sit down. In the movie Philadelphia, Tom Hanks' character, Andy, who was dying of AIDS, he was facing an issue because they were trying to set him up. You got to watch the movie, outstanding movie. I showed it to my students numerous times. He goes, to every solution, to every problem, there's a solution. To every problem, there's a solution. He keeps reminding himself that because he believed that. And if you watch the way the movie played out, he believed it all the way up until the end. And I'm not going to tell you what happens at the end. You got to watch it. I mean, Philadelphia is quite old. You should have already seen the ending, but great movie with him and Denzel Washington. So again, guys, I want to say, as always, thank you for taking the time out. Now is when I ask you to like this video, share this video to your circles. But here's the thing. Don't just clip the share link and drop it like that. No. I want you to share it and say one thing that you got out of today's video. Share it on your page and say, hey, check this guy out because this is what I got from it. And let them do the rest. And if they show up, I got them. I'll take care of them. And I'll make sure they get the quality care that they deserve if they reach out. And like I said, all my information is right there in my bios. Just click on the Linktree link and we're good to go. Okay? So again, I am Keith K.L. Belvin, crisis specialist, professional counselor, author, educational consultant, and I want to thank you for taking the time out with me today. I will be on next Friday, 10:30. I only come on once a week. And if you need me, I am all over, but you can find me. And if you want to see this video and other videos, you can go to my YouTube page that has all of my videos on it because that is where I keep them. And you can definitely check them out. And again, leave your thoughts, subscribe. That way you'll be notified when I come on each week. And I appreciate that. And I simply want to say to you, which is my hashtag, remember this. I honestly believe that when two or more people get together, the Lord is present. And if the Lord is present, we can fix whatever is wrong. I believe that. I live by that. And when I show up, I show up. When I'm here to help you, I am here to help you in every way possible that I can. And I will pray for you. And it is my hope that the Lord will grant me all the tools that's necessary for me to help move you to a position that is better than the one that you were in before you came to me. All right. So remember, we can fix this, and I am here to help. I want you to have a wonderful, wonderful weekend and have a wonderful holiday on July 4th. I don't celebrate the holiday, so it's just a day off, but I work for myself, so I can take a day off anytime I want. But if you celebrate, happy July 4th to you. I don't see it as a real holiday, but we're not going to get into the politics part. Have a wonderful weekend, guys, and enjoy yourself, and please be safe.